all over. All right, so what we are looking at is very simply going to be dispute methods. And when I'm talking about methods, I'm not really talking about letters per se. I'm literally talking about methods. And I'm going to explain why. So we're very specifically talking about a couple of them, okay? So we have identity theft, the 609, 623, unknown, 1681 factual disputes, and there is another one. It is the 603, and we'll talk about that one as well. Okay, so I hope that everyone is here. If you need to watch a replay, you can do that because you purchased a ticket. So if you are watching the replay, either way, I welcome you. This was live. All right, so first thing that we're going to talk about is the fact that these, once again, do not mean letters. We are specifically talking about methods, and I'm kind of breaking it down this way because everyone thinks that they have to send a very specific letter per each negative item, and it doesn't work like that, okay? So what this means is that you can use the 609 without sending a 609 letter. You can use 1681 without sending a 1681 letter. All right, so you could put all of this under factual disputes. So if you're wondering what factual disputes is, let's just start right there. So that we're not traveling backwards. A factual dispute is a dispute letter that you are writing based off the facts reporting on your credit report. Right? So when you're disputing a charge off, you're going to start with the date of last activity most of the time, right? You're taking those dates directly from your credit report therein disputing factually, because it is the actual information that the creditors and the bureaus are reporting on your credit report, and that is why you get the results, because you are taking the information that they are reporting and sending it right back to them, right? Okay, so now, I do want to mention that with identity theft, I am explaining this, but if you are not a victim of identity theft, if your client is not a victim of identity theft, you should not be using that method. Why? There's a couple of reasons for this. Number one, it's a lie, right? You've been a law-abiding citizen your entire life, or they have, your client, and all of a sudden you are filing false police reports and an affidavit and all that kind of stuff. Like, people literally go to jail for that because you are filing a false police report, okay? So you are swearing on this affidavit that the information you're providing is punishable criminally, I guess you can say, is true, right? So when you sign your John Hancock, you're saying, yes, this information is true. It's the same thing when you're, going into court and you have to raise your hand and you have to say that this information you're providing is true. So it's the same thing. So if you are not a victim of identity theft, you should not be disputing. All right, so now I did just send out an email to the people that had already registered today for this webinar. Now, the email very simply contains a link to something I created on Airtable so that you actually have these same notes that I do. Actually, mine is more of a condensed version with bullets, but you get the read-only version, which is all you need because it's not software, it's not an app that I built. It's so that you have the information and basically the important stuff that goes with this webinar. So all you have to do is click on the link. You do not have to sign up for Airtable or anything like that. It's completely free. Click on the link, open it up, and you can print this out if you want. And if you don't want to, that's totally fine. But I am giving you this information so that you have it to go with this webinar. All right. I don't know how long this is going to take. I guess I should have said that in the beginning. I don't know how long this is going to take. It's going to take however long. Sometimes I speak slowly, sometimes I speak fast. If you miss anything, or you would, you need some sort of clarification, please post it in the comment section, or questions or chat, whichever is relevant on there, and the person that I have doing the questions around the corner can answer for you. All right, so let's start with identity theft. So I'm actually going to get rid of what I have on the board in just a second. So the one that I want to explain, okay, so we already talked about identity theft, 609. Now, I'm sure anybody and everybody on this webinar and not even on this webinar, just everybody in general knows what a section 609C letter is. Basically, what you're saying in that letter is, pursuant to section 609, you need to provide a signed contract or the paperwork or application that was filled out, one that account was opened, or it needs to be removed. So we're basically going to talk about what these are before we get into it, all right? So if you know what these are, then you can kind of set out on this section. I do want to be very specific and tell you, and I tell everybody that asks me about this, you should only use this when there was an actual contract that you signed or an application, such as a third-party collector. All right, this should not be for a charge-off. It should not be for a bankruptcy. It should not be for anything like that. Okay, because unless you physically went into a store and signed your, signature on an application, you're not going to have a signature for a credit card. Because when you are filling it out, and you can even go and do a fake application right now, you're going to put your name, date of birth, email, address, phone number, social. You're going to answer questions about renting, income, and other employment stuff, and then you're going to check a bunch of boxes, including the terms and conditions, and you're going to click on submit. There is no signature, okay? Signatures come in for, I don't know if I mentioned already, but utilities, sometimes unless you're on the phone, medical, because you have to fill out all these, different pieces of paper when you're in the hospital or urgent care or even the doctor's office, right? And then there's things like apartment. You definitely have to sign stuff for an apartment. So, unless it's a debt buyer, you can use this for apartments as well. So, you need to forget everything that everybody else taught you about the section 609, all right? And I'm going to show you how you can use this. We're going to talk about why you shouldn't use this or when you shouldn't use it, all right? So a 623 dispute is directly to the original creditor. So let's just say that you have an account that you are disputing, whether it's charge off, late, whatever it is. I don't care if you're just disputing the high balance, but you are disputing something with a credit card company, all right, or a loan. Let's just say it's Capital One. You're disputing directly with Capital One. This is a 623 letter. This can be a template, and you can download one for free anywhere online. All you have to do in Google or Bing or whatever the heck you use is put 623 original creditor template. Hit enter and you'll get a ton of results. All the letters are the same. The only thing that you change is that very first line, which says what you were disputing. I disputed X account and the balance of $18,000, and you said it was verified, and blah, blah, blah. The rest of it, don't change. Your personal information, that first line, and your name at the bottom, all right? So we're also going to talk about that and when you should be using it and when you should not, okay? Now, this does not mix with a credit bureau dispute, all right? They're totally separate. Now, using unknown. Unknown is literally a dispute reason, okay? This is primarily for third-party debt collectors, all right? 1681, if you don't know what that is, it is section 1681, wherein it states that the bureaus have to do an investigation, and if they cannot legally verify, they have to remove the account. But a lot of people, and a lot of companies, and a lot of people that don't really know what the heck they're doing with their disputes are going to send out these, 15 paragraph 1681 letters, and I can actually upload one to Airtable on this section and show you what I'm talking about. Not to use it, but to show you what not to do, okay? So 15 years ago when I started doing this, my letters did come from the 1681. Okay, I was doing the wrong thing for my clients, and I had to find out the hard way. So I do this stuff to stop you from making those same mistakes that I did, all right, with everything that I do. It's not just to teach you the difference between this and blah, blah, blah. It's so that you don't make those same mistakes and that you don't have to go through what I did, not just with my credit, but, my clients. You get what I'm saying? So this is why I am providing this information. Okay, so 1681 is basically forcing an investigation. Obviously, you can't force anybody to do anything, and the same goes with the bureaus, especially with the bureaus. But that's basically why it has the quote unquote. Okay, so gotta love those air quotes. Factual disputes, you guys know what factual disputes are because that's what all of my videos are about. You're taking the facts directly from the credit report and you are throwing it back at them, right? So give me a second while I get rid of this and we're going to start with identity theft. And if you have a whiteboard at home, these wipes are like amazing. Expo wipes. Alright, so really only good for one use, but whatever. Toss that there. Alright, so identity theft. Not like I need to look at my notes, but it was just kind of right under there. Okay, so the thing with identity theft, and this is kind of difficult because I am left-handed. The thing with identity theft is, just like I said, this should only be used in the case that you or your client are or is, whatever, victims of identity theft. And there's a couple of reasons why. So first of all, we already spoke about it, it's illegal, right? Now, another thing is that you can get your negative items blocked from removal. So with each of these, we're going to talk about the dangers of using them. The only one that does not have a danger is factual disputes. Okay, so the thing with identity theft is that it has to have very specific elements to the letter. All right, so obviously you put your information, your client's information, whatever it is, same as any dispute letter. We're only talking about like what's actually in it. So you have to use, and you can paraphrase if you'd like, but you have to use victim of identity theft, IDT, identity theft, right? And you want to explain to them as much as possible in detail why, how, what happened. Because remember, you are just a regular Joe. You are just a regular Jane. And a regular Joe and a regular Jane would explain the situation. You know how I'm always talking about justifying, like cutting in front of that person in line to make a copy? Instead of just saying, hey, I need to get in front of you, you're going to say, hey, you know, my husband just called and he can't get to the kids to pick them up from school. So it would really, really, really be of, you know, great help to me if I can just get in front of you so that I can, you know, go and pick up my kids, right? So you are justifying everything that you're doing in a dispute letter. So you want to tell them how did it happen? When did it happen? If you know who, you want to include that as well. That information is also going to go on the affidavit, right? If you need a blank affidavit, I do have a PDF that I can upload, or I can just put it on Airtable if I remember to do so. Someone can remind me. If you can go and just put it in the questions or something, I'll put it on there. Okay, so you need to tell them in that very first paragraph this information. So even though it's not a human that's going to get the dispute letter, it's very important to make it look like you are a real human being, Joe the plumber. Okay, I keep saying that and it might sound very, very simple, but remember, everything that I do is simple, but there is a rhyme and a reason. There is a formula to everything, and that's what I'm trying to explicate here. Okay, so that first paragraph is all of this crap, all right? So that's the first paragraph. Then you're going to put your disputes. So you have your creditor, the account number, and then the reason is going to be remove for fraud or theft or identity theft or not mine, or pursuant to section 605B, so on and so forth, right? So with the identity theft method, you are not going to be putting factual based disputes because there is no fact other than identity theft, right? You want it to all be centralized around identity theft. This account is not mine. It was opened by somebody else. Or it was mine, but someone hacked into my PayPal account and they were able to go and spend, yada, 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 yada at Walmart and Target or whatever. Out of the $50,000 balance that I have, 40,000 of it is not mine. Or between the months of, and this is like literally taken from some of the experiences of my clients, but between the months of, August 2016 and December 2017 or 2016 or whatever, these transactions totaling $10,000 with Walmart and Target and whatever, these are the ones that are fraud. Now you need to be careful because you need to separate. You have your regular accounts you're disputing. These are factual disputes. Then you have your identity theft. These are the 605B disputes. These are the identity theft ones. You need to make 2 dispute letters. They cannot be combined. If you combine them, you are going to make a huge mistake, and you're going to take like 15 steps back, all right? So please, 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 whatever you do, make sure that number 1, you're not disputing online, and number 2, we're not going to talk about online disputes, but I am going to tell you about them without putting anything on the board. You want to make sure that they are 2 totally separate things, okay? Regular and identity theft, okay? Do not mix them up. All right. So now below this, you're going to put something to the effect of, so you have all your disputes right here, right? You're going to put something to the effect of just send a new report. Yes, it is messy down here. Send a new report. You can paraphrase. Send a new report that shows the changes that were made. Send a new report reflecting these deletions. Whatever it says is the basic underlying thing here that I'm trying to say. Send a new report so that I can see that you deleted it. And the important thing for this is 4 business days. 605B states that they have 4 business days to delete this stuff. If they don't, now you have to go and challenge why they didn't delete it, how they verified it, who verified it, what the method of verification was, all that kind of stuff. You don't want to get there. That's my entire point. You don't want to get there. You don't want to get to round 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and all that kind of stuff. You want to put everything that is necessary, everything that is required on here so that you do not have to get there, okay? So the thing is that you need to make sure, and this goes for anything, you are sending either yours or your clients, you're sending ID, SSN, and proof of address. Your proof of address needs to be outside of the envelope. It needs to be legible. It needs to be printable. Okay, so I'm saying this because I have clients that send me crap that's just like, I'm supposed to print this? Someone else or even a computer is supposed to read this? Like, no, man, nobody can read this. Like, how does it even make any sense? If I can't read it, they're not going to read it. And if they can't read it, you're not going to get your deletions because they won't investigate. So ID, SSN, proof of address, your dispute letter, as well as the affidavit. And once again, if someone can remind me, I will go and upload a blank affidavit under the identity theft on Airtable on the attachments. Okay, so the dangers of using identity theft we've already spoken about. The thing is, and forgive me for speaking this way, the thing is that millions of people use this method when they were not supposed to. And because of that, this method doesn't really work all that well anymore. So even if you were a jackass, you own a company and you're a jackass and you are doing this for your clients, you're going to find out the hard way that you're not going to get the deletions because too many other people are doing or did over the course of years and years and years the same thing that you just had this bright idea that, oh, I'm going to make all this freaking money because I'm going to get all these deletions in 4 business days or in less than 90 days or 45 days, whatever, and they're never going to know that this is what I'm doing. No. Do not do it. Do not put yourself in that position, all right? Moving on. Let's just talk about online disputes real quick. And like I said, I'm not going to put anything up on the board for this because this really should be common sense if you know anything about credit repair and disputes and all of that. But just real quick, right? So you should not, as a consumer or as a business, do any online disputes. The reason being is that logically, 100 what do they give you, like 100 characters or something, or this little box where you're supposed to put your dispute reason, or you know, choose A, B, C, D, E, F, G, whatever. That's what? No, dude, I need to have like a box like this big to put my dispute reason in there. Like, that's the first thing, that you don't have the ability to do a factual based dispute. The second thing is that you are giving up so many of your rights, okay? So I believe it's 623 and 611. So what you're giving up is the bureaus do not have to send any investigation results. If you have any documentation that you upload, they don't have to share that with the creditor, so they just kind of sit on it. They also, if they come back and they say, you know, hey, it's verified, you can't do anything about it. You can't sue them. You can't sue the creditor or the collection agency or whoever the hell it is that, you know, they had to dispute with. They don't have to do anything, and you can't do anything about it, okay? So you really want to go and look at this stuff. There's like 4 paragraphs that you're giving up out of these sections, and these are things that you really, really need. Plus, you're making it so much easier for them to automate the process, okay? So no online disputes, no online disputes. I wish I had like a shirt that said no online disputes, or like a, you know, thing like with the poster board, and like I'm gonna go picket somewhere. No online disputes. All right, so moving on. All right, so let's talk about 609. Okay, so here's the thing with 609. I am going to show you what you shouldn't do, what your letter should include, how to use 609, and how to not use it, all right? So the reason that I'm speaking slowly and that I'm trying to break it down like this is because there's people that are on this webinar that are not that advanced. There's people that have English as their second language, and there's people that may be advanced, but you know, whatever. So, you know, I'm trying to find like a happy medium here where it's not super advanced and it's not super dumb, okay? So we are looking at 609. Section 609 basically states, like I said, the proof, okay? Where is the proof? So we're gonna have, what, 2 sides to this? Let's do 2 sides. So we have, how do I want to do this? All right, so the first part of this is do and don't do, all right? So with section 609, you can use this for medical, you can use this for utility, you can use this utility, you can use this for apartments, you can use this for phones, you can use this for inquiries, although you would actually want to use 604 for that, all right? What you should not use this for, and we've already spoken about this, but I want to make sure I put it on here because it's very, very serious. Charge-offs, closures, repos, bankruptcies, tax liens, judgments, alright, so on and so forth. Late payments. Okay, so you can use this over here. Why? Why? It's because there is, that's my signature. That signature is going to go on this stuff, all right? When I apply for these, unless it's these 2, these have very specific ways of removing. But when I'm applying for these, there's a box that I'm agreeing to their terms and conditions, right? The TOC. So Once again, medical utility, apartment, cell phone inquiries. Do not use this for charge-off, foreclosures, repos, bankruptcy, taxing, judgments, and late payments. Anything that is bank related, you are not going to use this for. Now, when you do use this, you are basically going to take 609 and you're going to put it with your factual based disputes. So what that is going to look like, and I can give you a couple examples. What this is going to look like is actually very, very simple. So if you watch my videos, you would have seen the one where I went over the formula. The formula for using this, the 609 in a factual based dispute is very, very simple, all right? So what you're going to do is let's use charge off, collection. We're going to use collection, didn't mean charge off. We're going to use a collection for an apartment, all right? That's good enough. Collection for an apartment. We owe $10,000. This is our little apartment right here. It's $10,000, and it's with DeVille, I think, is actually a debt buyer, but I dispute with them using the VOD and the 609. I'm not too sure. Sometimes they purchase, sometimes they don't. But this is very simply what we're using in our example. Now, you don't want to use 609 for a debt buyer. They have a very specific way of disputing. So we have our dispute letter, right? You're going to have your information here, your date. You're going to sign it at the, not sign, but put your name at the bottom. You're going to have your opening paragraph, which is going to very simply, if this is only for this account, this is to the bureaus. So this is a CRA letter. You're going to very simply state that your opening, your opening paragraph or your opening statement is very simply going to be that this needs to be removed because you don't know what this is. I don't know. You can put this eloquently if you want. You know, I'm writing this letter to you because I recently pulled my credit report and I saw that this account was on here and I really don't know what it is. I've listed it below. If you could please investigate this account because I don't know what it is. All right? Your dispute reason is very simply going to be that you need it removed because you don't know what it is, and you would like to see a signed contract, application, or any other paperwork that was filled out when it was open. If not, if they cannot furnish it, so nowhere in here did I say anything about 609, right? All I'm very simply stating is that it needs to be removed very simply because you don't know what it is. This is who the creditor is, so you would put whoever the creditor is, creditor name, account number, so DeVille account number 12345. And your reason is remove this because I don't know what it is and I need to see the paperwork, the contract, the application, anything that was filled out when this account was open. Nowhere do I say section 609. Okay, so this is how you would use 609 with a factual based dispute. Now, the difference between doing this and doing a 609 letter is that a 609 is basically where you are saying everything that I said, but like Blacklaw's dictionary, blah, 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 section 609 states that you're required to furnish the documentation that was filled out when this account was open. And if you do not have the ability to furnish this information, then the account needs to be removed. If you now remove this account, blah, 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 blah. Nobody cares about that. Nobody cares about that. Okay, and then the dispute reason is unverified. Why is it unverified? Why do you need to see this information? So that is basically the point behind that one, that you are using the regular Joe, the regular Jane, right, to send it to the bureaus to state that you don't know what it is. So your first round dispute is going to very, very simply be, I don't know what this is. So you have round one. This is round one. Round two. Oops, that's an R. Round three. And let's just stop at round four. So round one is unknown. I need to see proof. Round two is furnish this proof and method of verification. Round three is notice of dispute, independent investigation, because remember, we want to catch them using EOSCAR, right? This whole automation process and everything. So you want to force them to prove that they did an investigation, that they didn't just use a geographical code match or something like that. That has to do with your addresses and everything, and that they are actually looking into this, which you know that they're not going to do. All right, so round four is a CFPB complaint. Now, during this whole thing, you are also starting right here, a couple days later, you're starting with the VOD process. So you have VOD 1, VOD 2, VOD 3, and this right here is where you need to decide whether you want to do VOD 4, which is a lawsuit, or whether you want to not really, use that whole thing and possibly go with, your CFPB complaints, the BBB complaints, because remember, you're doing the VOD and your CRA letters using, basically the whole unknown tactic with the 609. And unknown is one of the reasons that we're actually going to go over. You don't want to use not mine unless it's identity theft, though, because when you are doing not mine, you're actually, there's like 4 reasons why you would be committing like credit repair suicide. So I'm not going to go over all 4, but basically the premise behind it is that not only are you lying, but it can come back and bite you in the ass, right? Because first you're saying, not mine, didn't work, it didn't come off. Now you're going and saying, oh, well, it is mine, but I don't owe $10,000. So it's, it's not mine, I need you to remove it. Oh, but it is mine, but I don't owe $10,000. Oh, but I do owe $10,000, but you don't have a contract. Oh, well, okay, so you do have the contract, but you didn't put the notice of dispute. So you are like just losing the whole battle before you ever started. So don't do that, all right? There's 3 other reasons. If you want to know about those, you can go and sign up for my course. We're not going to go over the rest of that stuff. But that's basically the whole thing with the 609. So now some of the quote unquote dangers of doing the whole 609 thing is basically that, I had to flip my little thing over. Basically, you need to understand how your letters get processed at the bureaus. And I have gone over this in multiple videos, and if you are in the credit repair industry, you would already know this, but when your letters get to the bureaus, I actually have a recent video on this. When your letters get to the bureaus, they go through a scanner. If the scanner can read your letter, it's going to attempt to determine if it's a template. If it's a template, they are going to automatically state that it's been verified, right? So my board looks terrible now. So if it's automatically verified, you just like took 15 steps back. So if you have like 1 million people and they're all sending this one letter and they know it's going to be verified, right? But now if you are using factual based disputes, your letter is never going to match anybody's, because it's a custom letter that you are writing right then. right? So if you take the premise of the 609 and put it with factual based disputes, it's never going to come back as verified because it doesn't match anything. So that's my entire point, that there's different methods that you can use, but when you tie them into factual based disputes, remember, just taking the stuff that they're reporting and using it against them, there's nothing that they can do other than delete or correct whatever it is that you're saying, right? So that's the entire point behind this. So you're not going to send a 609. You're going to use 609 in your dispute letter. You're not going to use, the 623 because you're disputing that directly with the original creditor. But when you're doing a 623 dispute with the original creditor, you can now, in your factual based letter to the bureau, state, hey, I wrote, capital 1, they didn't remove it, they didn't reply, they didn't whatever, and now this account needs to be removed, and here's the proof. And I'm disputing the data loss activity because there's 3 different years, and capital 1 says this, blah, blah, blah. You get what I'm saying? So, and once again, I apologize that I'm talking basically at the board, left-handed here, and all that kind of stuff. So, moving on to VOD, just because it follows the 609. So, the validation of debt. You are only going to use this on third parties, third-party collectors, okay? So if you want a copy of those letters, go to Airtable with the link that I emailed out, and you can get that. Now, I am going to send out that link again before the end of tonight, just in case there's anybody that, purchased after I already sent it out, all right? So anywho, I will go and I will post those if I remember. I hope someone reminds me. But anyways, third-party collectors, do not send this to debt buyers. Do not send this to debt buyers. Do not send this to any debt buyers. Third-party collectors, remember, medical, utility, cell phone, apartment, okay? Do not send this to any debt buyers. I'm saying this 15,000 times because I had 4 phone calls today, so like 50 calls in a week, where people are sending these letters to the debt buyers. That is not the way that you remove them. You remove those debt buyer accounts, Portfolio, Midland, Calvary, who else? Second round. You remove those using factual-based disputes, such as late payments on a collection. A collection by default is late. There should not be late payments. A past due on a collection. A collection by default is past due. There should not be a freaking past due on there. This is directly out of the law, okay? I am not telling you pursuant to section blah, 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 no, it needs to be removed. No, the same way I'm talking to you right now is the same way that you should be writing your dispute letters. So this Midland account needs to be removed because you have a late payment on a collection. Delete immediately. This portfolio account needs to be removed because there's late payments in the payment history. Delete this account, all right? So going back to this, so you are going to do this with third parties. So we have, just like I mentioned before, you have letter 1. Letter 1 is going to go out a couple of days before your CRA letter. It can even be 30 days, okay? It all depends on how confident you are that they're not going to put the required notice of dispute, or that by disputing with the collection agency, you are going to get your deletion. And if you look at Airtable on the notes that I have on there, your probability of removal substantially increases by using the VOD process, okay, concurrently with your unknown disputes. Okay, so you are going to send out letter 1 before, during, after, whatever. It's just the whole point of sending it out. Letter 1 is very simply stating, I need proof, otherwise remove it. Okay, very, very simple. You guys have all seen a VOD letter. All right, so letter 2, you have 2A and you have 2B. 2A is when they respond. 2B is when they do not respond. And they're both basically stating the same thing. Sorry, this marker is like really loud. They're basically stating the same thing, that because they responded or whatever. Sometimes you don't even, if you're a business, skip letter 2A and just go to 2B, because it's too difficult to track whether, you know, client A had a response, but client B didn't, and client, you know, Z4 did, but, you know, like R7 did. I mean, whatever it is, whatever your system is, don't hassle yourself, use 2B. All right, so we're going to assume that they responded and they said it was verified, but they didn't put their required notice of dispute, and they didn't prove what they were, you know, their signed contract. Because remember, we're looking for a signature on a contract, right? So, anywho, both of these come down to one thing: proof and notice of dispute. So because they didn't do that, you send out letter 2A if they respond, 2B if they do not respond, and letter 3 is notice of dispute. All right. So there's so much more that goes into this, but I'm putting it in just straight layman terms. There's like an 86-page PDF that goes with this. So basically, according to section 623 of the FCRA, the creditor is required to put the notice of dispute within 30 days of the date that they first receive the first letter. All right. The bureaus are required to do this. The creditors are required to do this. Section 806B of the FDCPA says the same thing, that when the collection agency receives it, they have to put the required notice of dispute. So what your job is to ensure that there's been 30 days, wait till that 31st day, pull a new credit report and see in the comment section if they put the required notice of dispute. If they have not done so, they are in violation. Now, if they put the required notice of dispute, but they did not send the proof, they are in violation. If they sent the proof but didn't put the required notice of dispute, they are in violation. If they did both of them, screw them and go with your bureau disputes. Unknown, where's the proof? You didn't provide the proof, method of verification, late payments and all that kind of stuff on collections. There's so much that you can work with here, okay? I'm just trying to kind of point you in the right direction with this and show you that there's different methods that you can use while also using factual-based disputes. You can dispute with the bureaus while disputing with the collectors. You can dispute with the bureaus while disputing with the original creditor. You can dispute with the bureaus while you're making complaints against the bureaus and the creditors and the collection agencies. You get what I'm saying? So, letter 4 is very simply lawsuit. Now, I do know that some people skip to 4. They just see the collection, I'm going to sue them. Unless you are totally comfortable with that, I wouldn't do that. But do you? It is your credit, all right? So the unknown process is the same thing as the VOD process, but you're disputing with the bureaus. And that went along with Section 609, right? So instead of pursuant to Section 609, you're required to blah, 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 you're going to very simply state, this account is unknown. Then, method of verification. Then, you're challenging how they're stating that it's been verified, but when you disputed with the collection agency, you had to send letter to B because they didn't respond. So, if they're not responding to you, how are you supposed to know that they're responding to the bureaus? And, what is that called? Estoppel by silence or something like that, where because they didn't respond, that means that they agreed with you, because if they disagreed with you, they would have responded. So anywho, there's a letter for that with the bureaus as well, where you're stating that the collection agency did not respond, and because of that, they need to remove the account, because otherwise they would have been able to furnish whatever the collection agency sent to them. All right, so that's 609, unknown, and the VOD. All right, what else do we have? We have factual disputes, 1681, and that is it. All right, factual disputes. Let's just go over this just for the fun of it. All right, because it's my thing. It's what I do. All right, you can use factual-based disputes to remove anything, and I'm not saying virtually anything. I'm saying anything. Okay, so once again, your credit report is the information that they are providing. They being the creditors, they are providing this information to the credit bureaus. All right, you as a consumer since the 70s are allowed to dispute the information that is on your credit report, regardless of what it is. if you believe that it's inaccurate. All right, inaccurate does not mean valid. Validity and inaccuracy are two totally different things. So what that means is that if you have an account that says you owe $100 and you know that it's $100 but it has the wrong open date, that's an inaccuracy. You can dispute it. Okay, so there is a formula to doing this, right? Because we're talking about methods here. Methods and how they relate to each other and to bureaus and how to use them and when not to use them. So there is no downside to factual-based disputes besides being very, very simple. There's a couple of things that I want to say about it first because I see this all the time. No more than, oops, wrong way. No more than 10 negative items per letter, all right? No more than 1 dispute reason per item, unless they are just so blatant that it would be stupid of you to store your ammo, right? So basically, we're in World War II, we're Americans, we're coming up on Germans, you have a machine gun, you've got freaking knives, you've got stones, I mean, you've got like a whole horde of like ammo, right? But you figure that you have a good chance killing these 10 Germans with your 1 stone or your 1 knife or your 1 bullet. Could that ever happen? I don't know. Maybe you can line them up and it just goes through all their heads, or I don't know. I mean, maybe you throw a rock and it bounces off each of them and you kill all of them. Like, in a perfect world, it could happen. But if you see that there's all these inaccuracies on an account, and because my whole point was that otherwise you would use all of your best ammo at once to kill them, because that's your best option, right? You have to use logic with this. If you have the date of last activity being wrong, the date of last payment being wrong, and there's a monthly payment on a closed account, you're going to use all 3 of these to remove this 1 account on the first round, right? That just makes sense. You have to use logic with this, right? Because otherwise, you are going to be saving your best ammo for nothing. So the entire point with this is that you need to really think about what's the best method of doing this. Is using these 3 going to have a better chance of removing this 1 account versus sending out first the data last activity, second round, data last payment, third round, monthly payment? What if by the time you get here, this monthly payment is no longer there and the data last payment is also corrected? Now that means that you have 2 less and they're way at the top of the hierarchy. So you really, really, really need to dissect it. So this is the very first thing that you want to do. You need to analyze your account. First, you need to analyze your entire credit report, but you need to do an analysis, right? You need to look at the whole account, each and every single part of it. Then you need to come up with a plan. I'm going to dispute first the monthly payment. Then I'm going to dispute the high balance. Then I'm going to ask for a method of verification. Then I'm going to challenge the data last payment. Then I'm going to do the data last activity. Then I'm going to do the fact that the balance is higher than the high balance. Then I'm going after the first date of delinquency. Then I'm going after the notice of dispute or failure to enter the notice of dispute. Then I'm going after so on and so forth, right? Inaccurate late payments, and the balance, and then the open date, and then all that kind of crap. So you want to analyze and come up with your best plan. Obviously, the more you dispute, the more these are going to change, the less you're going to have. So you really need to do, the whole pyramid thing that I was talking about before, not in this video, but one before that, where you're using your best dispute reasons. These are your most effective. Then you're going after the mid ammo. And these ones, all these here, are going to be the crap like balance, open date, you know, stuff like that, right? So these are your last resort. So in between all of this, you can also be asking for, you know, I need you to furnish. Anytime you use the word furnish, you are asking for proof. I need you to furnish the bank statements belonging to this company, Capital One, to prove that I was ever late on X date. Whether you're disputing late payments, whether you're disputing a charge off, because they can't legally verify late payments. How are they going to do that? I'm going to tell you. The only way that they can do that is by giving you their bank statement to prove when your payment was accepted into their account. Do you really think in any world, any universe, anything that they're going to give you their bank statement? No, right? No. And the grave responsibility is on the bureaus and the creditors, not you. So if you go back to Cushman versus TransUnion from 1997, you're going to read on there that Congress states that they have a grave responsibility to ensure the accuracy of your credit report. And when they come back and say that, you know, it's verified as accurate, you now can ask for a reinvestigation. And as far as like the whole stall tactics and scare tactics and them saying, oh, it's, you know, frivolous and we're no longer going to reinvestigate unless you have new and relevant information, that just very simply means a new dispute reason, all right? So you need to take everything that you know directly from the law, directly from your credit report, put it in normal human terms, use this stuff, and you will get your deletions. But you have to analyze it and come up with the best plan, okay? You need to have a plan of attack. And if you would like to get copies of, unless you already have them, the worksheets that I created on, you know, how do I come up with the best strategy for round one, for my charge off, for this or whatever, it's, what's the website? It is vargasconsulting.builderall.net/biggest-ammo, I think. You can find cheat sheets and all that kind of stuff on there. All right, so the entire point behind this is that you need to analyze. Once you analyze, you can come up with your best thing. But as far as this goes, you want to put no more than 10 accounts per letter. You want to put no more than one account, one dispute reason per account. All right. There's so much that goes into factual based disputes that I could spend an entire 7 hours just talking about this, but I obviously don't have 7 hours. You obviously don't have 7 hours, and we are not going to go do that. This is very simply to break it down and show you that you can use different methods as well as and while concurrently using factual based disputes. All right. So if we were going to ask for the proof for the first date of delinquency, we would ask for them to furnish proof that you were ever late on whatever date that they have in the payment history, right? Asking for the proof. So you're not saying, pursuant to section 1681, you are required to provide the documentation that proves that I was ever late on X date. Otherwise, you need to remove it. You're very simply stating, I wasn't late on this date, and unless you have the paperwork that proves that I was late on this date, you need to remove this account. Or this late payment, whatever it is. All right? And just real quick about late payments. It's not on my paper, but I believe I was going to say something about it. As far as late payments go, you have to determine whether you should, and I should put this on the board. You need to determine whether you are going to correct or remove the account. And the way that you figure that out is actually very simple. So if it's a charge off, it's automatically a deletion. You can't correct a charge off. You can't. It doesn't happen. You have to remove the entire account. All right. Now, if you have late payments, and we can talk about student loans here, I guess, why not? If you have late payments and you are trying to figure out, can I remove this or can I we just remove the late payments, you need to look at the number of late payments and the frequency, right? So we're disputing Navient, right? We have, let me just check on my camera real quick. Yes, 56 minutes. Wow. If you are disputing Navient and you have 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, on time, on time, on time, on time, on time, 30, 30, on time, on time, on time, 30, 60, 60, 60. Okay. 90, 90, 90. This account needs to be removed. However, if you only have this, you can correct it. If you only have this, you can correct it. If you only have this, you can correct it. But when you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, you have 12 late payments, you have to remove this whole account. It's not going to work for you to go after each set individually, because what you're saying is if you can't prove that I was late on one of these dates or one of these sets of dates, then you need to update this account as paid as agreed. They're never going to do that. And if you are going after like 7 years of payments, it doesn't make any sense. Okay, so once again, this wasn't even part of this, but the way that you remove late payments is going back to the oldest. So you're going to go back to whatever the oldest one is, and you're very simply going to state, I was not late on X date. Please remove late payments and update to paid as agreed. Okay, so that's basically how you deal with late payments. Go back to the oldest one. You're going to do the same thing to remove charge-offs. You can go back to the first late payment, whenever the heck that was, and you state, I paid on time on this date because of this. This account is inaccurate and it has to be removed. You didn't say anything about the balance. You didn't say anything about anything, right? The last thing that I actually want to go over is just that. There's so many people, and I hope that none of them are you, but there's so many people that think that because a charge-off has a balance, that it should be removed. All right, and I do have other videos about this, but basically the way that it works is if you didn't pay Capital One, there's going to be a balance. The only time that this Capital One account is not going to have a balance, and if you didn't pay it, is if it was transferred or sold to a collection agency. All right, so now you have two accounts instead of one, and only one of them should have the balance. All right, this is the last thing that I'm going to show you. So let's say that you have your Capital One account. The way it should not report is a collection agency and Capital One both show a balance. No, it should also not have Capital One with the balance, monthly payment, or past due. All of that should now be with the collector, except for that there should be no past due or monthly payment on the collection. This is considered double jeopardy. This also goes for any two collection agencies. So you can't have collection agency 1 and collection agency 2 reporting the same account. It can only be one creditor, right? One collection agency or whatever, okay? So that, my friend, was a very long hour. Okay. I do hope that you got way more than the $9 that you paid. You can go, and if you haven't done so already, go to Airtable and print that out or save it or whatever. Those notes are on there for you. It's a read-only version. If you would like a one-on-one with me, that is on the webinar page. You can do the interview. If you would like to sign up with me, it's $49 and it's video. It's basically the free discovery call but video. If you would like a credit report review, that's $144. So it's the $49 plus the $95 that I charge for the analysis. You get a 15 to 20 page analysis on that. If you don't want to pay for video, but you do need my help, you can go to expertcreditsweeps.com/book online and schedule a free discovery call. Not video, but the phone. I do calls every day except for Sunday. All right. If you have any questions, please make sure to post them on whatever it is, the chat or the question section. And I can't see from here, but if you did have any questions, they should have been answered for you already by my buddy who's doing the questions. All right. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions, let me know. This is where my webinars are going to be now. And that is it. Thank you. And I have to go around and turn this off. All right. Bye. Bye.